Okay, welcome back. This is getting started with AutoCAD. This is part 3, and this is where we're going to talk about a few different things. But we're going to start off with circles and probably move into dimensions and go from there. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you several different ways to draw circles. Now, in the past video, we went through how to do lines. We also talked about how to do some rectangle stuff. And when you see little arrows like next to this rectangle tool and you pull that down, you can see there's additional tools underneath of that. So same way with circle, when you look at the circle tool and you see the little pull down arrow, you hit that pull down and you can see that there are 6 different ways to draw a circle. Well, first thing, the option is the center radius. And what that means is when you click on that circle tool, it's going to come down and ask you for specify the center point for the circle. So always come down and read that command line. That command line is how you communicate with AutoCAD. So we're going to specify the center point, and I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to click, and I start to pull out, and this is the radius of the circle. Now, it says specify radius of circle, but then you can also see that the dotted line extending from the center to the edge of the circle is the radius. So you can also see the blue dimension that grows when I move my mouse or shrinks depending upon the direction I move. So I'll go ahead and type in a radius of 2, hit enter, and that is actually a diameter of 4. So that's a radius circle. So now this time I'm going to grab my circle tool and I'm going to come down to do center diameter. Now I'll come over here next to that radius, and in fact what I'll do is I'll mouse over the edge of the circle and you can see that center point pop up. That center is the object snap for that circle. And to get it to show up, you just have to mouse over the edge and then go to the center. Now, what I can do from here is if I want that first circle to line up perfectly by center, I just sit over the center and then slowly move away. That's that object tracking. So if I sit over top of it, wait till it recognizes center, and then I start slowly moving away. And if it doesn't seem to work, sit there again and then slowly move away. It should pick up, all right? Now, as I keep coming across, I'll just go ahead and click and then start pulling out. And now you can see that it starts at the center, but it actually extends past the edge of the circle the same distance as the radius. So you can see that that dotted line, the yellow dotted line, is extending out. And then you have a diameter dimension that is growing or shrinking. That is your blue active dimension. So I'll go ahead this time and put in 4 and hit enter. And you can see that they're the exact same size. So just to go ahead and throw some dimensions on these things, what I will do is I'll come to the dimension toolbar, and instead of grabbing this quick multiple dimension, I'm going to pull down the dimension tool because I want you to see that there are multiple ways to place dimensions. There's linear, aligned. Linear is used for lines, obviously linear, and then aligned is going to be for angle lines, and of course this is angular to measure angles. We'll show you more about these in a little bit, but let's jump down here to radius and diameter. If I grab the radius tool and then mouse the pick box over top of the edge, I'm going to left click, pull out, and then click again. That places the dimension. Now I'll pull down, come down to the diameter this time, and I'll do the same thing, grab the pick box, pull out, and drop it. So you can see that radius and diameter are available. All right, so I'll go ahead and grab diameter, go ahead and dimension this object, and place that there. All right, so that's all happy and good. Let's continue making some circles. 2 points. 2-point circle is going to use 2 points, and it's actually going to be a diameter. So we're going to go from one side, and you can see that that stretches all the way across to the other, and that's going to be diameter. I'll just type in 3, hit enter. Then you can see how that functions, and then we'll go ahead and grab the circle tool again. This time it'll be 3 points, and the first 2 points, it's going to be from one side to the other, and then this is actually very interesting how these 2 points kind of slide around almost as if those points are tangent. They're not being called tangent. There's a different tool for that, but picks 3 points to create a 3-point circle. Okay. Go ahead and pull down circle tool again. Now this is where we get into tan radius. That's tangent radius, and then tangent tangent. So the thing I like about these is you start to see these additional tools pop up. See the little tangent symbol, the little green circle with a tangent line, and then dot dot dot. That means there's more to come. So if I click on that tangent, I'm going to click on this tangent, and then it's asking me for a radius. So if I go ahead and say 5 and hit enter, you can see it's going to create a radius of 5 tangent to those 2 objects. Okay. Tan, tan, tan is just like what it sounds like, tangent, 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 and it will find that tangent for all those. So if I wanted to then again do tangent, 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 and I do 1, 2, 3, you can see that that is going to run tangent to those points. So making circles is a lot of different ways to do it. I can tell you that for me, the most I use is probably radius, diameter, and the tangents. Haven't utilized 2 and 3 points a whole lot. I seem to just gravitate towards the other ones. But however you do it, you'll find different ways are very useful for different drawings. Okay, so always know that there's several ways to do it. Okay, so you got to see a little bit of dimensioning over here before, where we did some radius and diameter dimensioning tools. By the way, this R stands for radius. This symbol, circle with a line through it, cross through it here, that means diameter. So if I pull down my dimension tools again, and I'm going to come down to the linear tool, and I'm just going to do a linear dimension. That means I'm going to then go to the O-snap endpoint of the end of the line, come to the other O-snap endpoint, click, and then I start coming up, and then I left click again. Don't need to hold down left or anything like that. Just simply click, and we'll go ahead and do a click, come down, click, and then come across and click again. So you can see that I have a 5 by 5 box there. All right. Now, so let's continue. We'll go ahead and I'll set up some angular dimensions here, and we'll go ahead and just throw up a simple angle here. I'll pull down the dimension tool, click on the angular dimension tool, grab the pick box to the line, pull out, and then drop again. You can see that's a 43-degree angle. Okay. A lot of interesting things here. The aligned dimension tool, I'll grab the aligned dimension tool, and you can see that the aligned dimension tool is going to function in line with whatever line you have chosen. If you were to grab the aligned dimension tool and go ahead and dimension this line like that, that'll work. It's aligned, but if you needed to go ahead and create a length dimension for that particular feature, if I used linear, which I just grabbed, linear is only going to give you a dimension that would be either horizontal or vertical. Okay, it's not going to be able to give you something on an angle like the aligned dimension tool can. All right, let's continue here. Let's talk about this arc length. Well, first I got to draw an arc, and let me talk about arcs. So if I come over here to my arc tool and I pull down my arcs, there are a ton of different ways to make arcs. So let's just pick a specific instance, and let's just say that I want to connect this point to this point along a nice sweeping arc. Well, if I pull down my arc tools, I got to start looking at them, reading, and kind of looking at these little symbols to see what they're going to do. All right. You can also wait and sit over top of them and get a little bit more detailed description on what's going to happen here with those particular tools. So what I want to do here is I want to then have an arc. So I want to start and an end point. So it's the start and the end of the arc. And then I want to give it a radius. All right, so that seems like that's probably going to work the best, because I don't want to start in the center, start center angle, no, start center length, no. Probably this is the best one, start and radius. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to grab the end point. I'm going to go ahead and grab the end point, and then I'm going to start moving. And you can see as I move, you can start to see the radius change, because as I make this radius greater or shorter, it's either not going to be able to solve the solution less than 2.6, 2.7, it can start solving that arc solution. So if I go ahead and just set this arc up, let's just say I'll type in 3 and hit enter. So what I should be able to do now is measure the length of the arc. So if I pull down my dimension tool, grab the arc length, and then I can select the arc itself. Now, this symbol in front of that dimension is important. That's telling you it's arc length. It's not just from point to point. If I were to go ahead and grab the align dimension tool and I measure from point to point and come out here, you can see that that line, or that linear distance from one to the other, is nowhere near the length of that arc. Okay, so a few things that we'll start playing with as we get deeper into making drawings in this course, but just to know that these tools exist is very important. Okay, so now let's talk about this dimension tool. This is a quick dimension tool. If I sit over top of it, it should give me a tooltip that pops up here. Hold on, let me hit escape, sit over top of it. And what it's going to tell you, not getting a tooltip, but what it does tell you is it makes multiple dimensions through a single tool, instead of having to pull this down and then grab different dimensions. So let me just go ahead and I'll delete these 2 dimensions here. And let's just say I want to get a length dimension on this particular line. If I grab the tool, I come up, And you can already see it's trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. It says, oh, okay, I think you want a line dimension. Well, if I'm like, no, I don't, that's when I move my cursor until it gives me the selection that I really am looking for. Okay, so you need to move the cursor around to be able to then find that selection you're looking for with that particular tool. Okay, so it can be useful. It can also be very frustrating. So be aware that if you grab that tool, you are either needing to know how to give it the exact information so you get the exact piece of information you want. It's important to understand what it is that this thing is going to give you, okay? Whether you want radius or diameter and the like, okay? So be aware when you start playing around with the automatic tool. You can always go back to what I call manual mode. All right. Great. So hopefully all these tools help you, and we'll start diving into our first set of drawings here to get you started with AutoCAD.